Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and this has been a really weird month for RPGs that were supposed to be done with support but suddenly get big new updates out of nowhere. So recently we talked about Baldur's Gate 3, which is getting its 8th patch and it's adding a ton of subclasses and like actual substantial content. And while I'm not going to sell you the same level of excitement I had for the BG3 patch as I am for Cyberpunk's new patch, it does seem like CD Projekt Red is going to be hanging around this game a little bit longer. They have not confirmed it, but it doesn't seem like they're done beyond this update because it just dropped out of nowhere. We all thought the end of Cyberpunk really was with Phantom Liberty. They had the 2.0 update, overhauled a ton of the gameplay. The job was done there, and it was time to move on to The Witcher Remake, The Witcher 4, Cyberpunk sequel even. Like, there was a lot on the plate of CD Projekt Red, but a few stragglers hung behind, and they've added some meaningful features here to Cyberpunk 2077, and in some cases, CD Projekt Red themselves claiming these are highly sought after. So I'll let you be the judge of that. I have my own thoughts on this update, and we'll talk about what lies beyond for Cyberpunk 2077 and CD Projekt Red as a whole after we're done going over this update. It's available right now if you want to check it out, and the timing is pretty funny because I always plan my holiday videos around this time of year, and on my list was something about Baldur's Gate 3 and something about Cyberpunk, and all of a sudden, wow, they like literally just cook up these updates in time for these videos. So, hey, love when that happens. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into what CD Projekt Red is doing, you're in the right place. Consider subscribing. So let's start off with the top. Feature numero uno goes to car customization. They've added a bunch of new paint jobs in Cyberpunk 2077, and what's cool is you can actually drive around and scan these and copy them, so it kind of becomes a little bit of a collectathon. But they also added lore to this. Like, they said that they didn't want to just do this, they had to create a reason why in the universe. And so what they explained in both their patch notes and this stream is that there's a Rayfield crystal coat technology, which was originally for Rayfield vehicles only, but they've partnered with other car manufacturers, and that's why you're finding these new paint jobs on other vehicles. But I think the best part about all this, because I'm not really into all of that car customization, there's a different type of customization I'm really into that this game does provide some more options for. We'll talk about that later. But what I really was interested in is how does this affect the NCPD? That's right where my head went. Like, oh, you can change your car layout on the go. Certainly this has to interact with the NCPD, and they actually show it in stream, is that when you have the NCPD tracking you down, you can change what your car looks like, and you'll see them get confused, and there's like a mismatch of the vehicle identity. If you're close to them, they'll still recognize you, and they'll go after you. But I just thought this is a really cool additional feature on top of escaping from the cops in a traditional way. Like, it's cool that you'll be able to change how your car looks based on the palette you've set up, which you can change at, again, any point, and just get away from any crime you got caught doing. On top of that, they also added brand new cars to the game. There's 10 in total. 8 go into the base game as Cyberpunk is, and then 2 are dedicated to Phantom Liberty. You can find these at the Auto Fixer, and they are as follows: the Mizutani Shion MZ1, the Mizutani Shion Targa MZT, the Thornton Galena GA32T, the Thornton Colby CST40, the Archer Quartz ECL R275, the Quadra Type 66 640 TS, as well as the Type 66 680 TS, the Mahir Supran FS3T. And then as for the 2 dedicated Phantom Liberty vehicles, it's the Vilefort de Leon V410 S Coupe, as well as the Mizutani Hazuki MH2. And if that wasn't enough for you car fiends out there, this is the part where they were saying this was highly requested at CD Projekt Red. They've also added in Johnny Silverhand when you're driving around. So after Act 1, when Johnny Silverhand joins the crew, he's in your brain. They wanted to increase his presence in the story. He'll comment on things, like if you look at him for too long, he'll say something, but he won't spawn during combat. He won't spawn when another NPC is in the seat. So they used like a 25% metric, but you get to see him a little bit more. They wanted to bring that reality of having him live in your head to life some more. And out of everything that's here, this is actually my favorite feature, because anytime he's on screen, I'm just more interested in what's going on, because you know he's about to say something out of pocket. But I just love that they've, again, increased that usage a bit more. Now, they also added one thing here that I'm not really losing my mind over, and that is photo mode. They've really added a ton of new features to this. They've overhauled the UI. The drone camera is now free with increased range. You can turn off the game's collision, meaning that, you know, objects and buildings won't block you. And you can also lock the camera in place as well as have more precise movement. So for those of you who want to get that really specific shot and not lose that place, you have those options available for you. You can spawn 3 NPCs for your photos now, as well as adjusting the lighting and intensity of effects. And this is really cool. It's like, I'm not big on photo mode, but that's because I don't need to like snap pictures and then share them on social media. What I do love, though, is smart frames. Smart frames are really cool because these photos you take can then be put up in V's various apartments. And that's what kind of gets me into photo mode now, because I'm like, all right, now I actually get a place to see all of these, and I feel motivated to take these pictures, because otherwise, again, someone like me, I don't care about photo mode at all. More power to y'all who do. I'm not slandering, but this is a way to get me involved into it some more. So I thought that was really cool. And there's also some new character customization options. So you have 32 new eye colors. There's 18 lip makeup types that have been added, 17 nail colors, 10 cheek makeup types, 16 eye makeup types, 4 face scars, 5 eyebrow shapes, 4 face tattoos, 2 body tattoos, and 8 cosmetic face cyberwear options, the latter being the most exciting for me. Watching that character creator in motion with all these new options, it always brings me back to like just how wild and ridiculous some of these Cyberpunk characters look, and why I think this game, like if they're going to keep adding features, I think one that would really get people excited, just throwing it out there, maybe this is more of a sequel feature though, would be a third-person option. I just love what my V looks like, and it's such a shame that I only see my V in the menus. And it's funny because I say all this, yet one of my favorite qualities about Cyberpunk 2077 is how immersive I find it, especially in the dialogue and in the cutscenes, the way the camera works, the way like V will like lean against an object and just talk, and the camera doesn't zoom into those characters. It's all just very in-world. I say all that, but yet third person would break most of that. And it's funny because there's only like one small stretch where you actually see a third-person cutscene in Cyberpunk 2077 in the base game. Additionally, and more realistically for Cyberpunk 2077, if they were to hang with it a little bit longer, give it a little bit more life, if I were to throw anything else out there, I would say more mini games. I know that we have like Trauma Drama, the 2D side-scroller. I know there's the Arasaka Tower 3D. That's also a really cool one. And these are like full games with rewards in them, and they're quick. You can finish them all in like half an hour. Roach Race is another one, really simple as well. But I know Cyberpunk 2077 needs its own identity. At the same time, though, I can't help but look at Gwent, and I look at the world Cyberpunk is and how a card game or a gambling game, that sort of thing with a game that focuses on immersion so much, would make a ton of sense with all of the areas that you can enter in Cyberpunk where people aggregate, people gather. I know it also has its own kind of suite of mini games within its gameplay systems, like you can box, you can race cars, like that sort of thing. But I would love to see, I mean, frankly, I'm asking for a card game here, which I know is a lot of gameplay design and art assets it would take. It's probably a crazy request in the scheme of things. I imagine, again, this is more of a sequel request, but I do hope they have more mini games when it comes to Cyberpunk 2077 future updates or a sequel, because again, I think that that would be fantastic for the game and increase the immersion factors. Like I think that is what this game always and forever will need, and it's what a lot of people thought it was missing when it first came out, and they've gradually added more and more. But I would just love to see like NPCs playing some sort of card game similar to Gwent, being able to challenge them and just adding to that loop. Same thing with bounty hunting. Think that would be cool. I know there are like fixer gigs you get, but again, to kind of be like a Blade Runner in this world, I would love to sort of have that option of like specific targets on the map and kind of adding to the NPCs you already see wandering Night City. Nonetheless, that wraps up the full update for 2.2 in Cyberpunk 2077. So yeah, like I mentioned at the start of all this, if you compare it to like what Baldur's Gate 3 did with like 12 new subclasses and whatnot, I would say this is a little underwhelming. There is no confirmed PS5 Pro enhancement patch on the way. The Cyberpunk Twitter account already confirmed that. The thing that I found really interesting is they were talking a bit about like bounty hunting and stuff, and I thought, oh, maybe they're getting even closer to that kind of Blade Runner inspiration, or are they going to add a new origin story? Like when this was all announced, like we have a big update to show you all. I mean, the surprise factor was really there, where my brain started twisting in these big, exciting ways, because I'm like, you thought you were done with the game, so the only reason you come back is if you have something huge here. And it definitely, in my opinion, wasn't that, but there's a lot here. Is this the one that you download and go like, I'm going to go get a new full playthrough in for Cyberpunk? Maybe, especially if you like cars. Maybe, you know, there is that increased immersive factor there with Johnny Silverhand being there. And then you have all these cars that previously were driving around the world that you could never own for yourself. Now you can own all of these. So pretty much everything's available to you. It's at your fingertips. Do they continue on though? Again, they mentioned in this stream, like, we just couldn't stop ourselves. We just wanted to keep going. And I think moving forward, I'm not going to expect major features being added to Cyberpunk. You know, this is what they provided for us with a year out from Phantom Liberty. But I do think there's a world where you get like PS5 Pro enhancement patches. I think they want this game to just function the best on any possible hardware moving forward. You know, I saw some people expecting like wall climbing to be added to the game and stuff. So I'm not expecting things on that level. Some folks are thinking, are they going to resurrect the multiplayer that got abandoned for Cyberpunk? I'm not expecting that. Those would be very cool surprises. But we did get some Cyberpunk news earlier this year that there's like a new Cyberpunk anime in development, and after what Edge Runners was and how incredible it was, and also what it added to Cyberpunk 2077 as the love and the comeback story there was phenomenal. So I feel like if I'm setting my sights on any time we get actual new Cyberpunk content, it's probably going to be with that new show whenever that comes around. Maybe by that time, we don't know how long it'll take to produce. Maybe by that time, it's actually just better to kind of promote the sequel. Maybe we'll be years and years out from Cyberpunk 2077's resting place, if you will, and it'll just be focused on the sequel. So that would be where I'd set my sights for some sort of major addition. But otherwise, CD Projekt Red already confirmed like they're in full production on The Witcher 4. They're working on The Witcher remake, of course. You know, we're hearing a lot of rumors swirling about those games and when they can be shown off. So I get why they're moving on from Cyberpunk, even if I prefer Cyberpunk over The Witcher. And I mean, we just learned also that Cyberpunk 2077 sold 30 million copies. So there is a reason to continue to support this game, while a lot of people are like, what, really? It's like, it's not just for fun. It's like, this game has a ton of players, and it doesn't matter if those copies were sold at like $10 in the bargain bin when it was on PS4 only and the game was totally broken for a lot of people in 2020 versus now. The reality is 30 million potential customers are out there. If you keep updating this, driving that player number, maybe more people pick up Phantom Liberty, that sort of thing. I will say, for me, as someone who is planning a kind of new playthrough of the game to make a video on it for over the holiday break, this is well timed because now I can account for this update plus everything else that's in Cyberpunk, because what they say with this update is what they've said for a lot of them is they've added new secrets in. And I always raise an eyebrow because I'm like, what are these secrets? Because Bethesda Game Studios did the same thing. And like, I remember Todd Howard saying there's like a secret in Fallout 4 that no one else has found, and people continue to try and dig for it, try to discover it, but it's been like impossible to find. And there was a secret in The Witcher 3 that only got found, like they mentioned in the stream, 8 years later. I was like, oh yeah, like, so it may be a while before we find these secret features. I think that CD Projekt Red does this because they know it gets more people in to try the update. But yeah, if you want my honest take, I don't know if this is a download and replay the full game, but maybe it gets you in the mood thinking about Phantom Liberty, like, oh yeah, I never played that. If you haven't, you should. It's absolutely excellent, and especially in a year where we got amazing DLC like Shadow of the Erdtree, and you got something like Shattered Space, which I think was the bottom of the barrel when it came to DLC. Now you have an opportunity to see something that I think is frankly better than both of them combined. So go ahead and check that out. But nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, not much else to say about this. This is the new Cyberpunk 2077 update. Curious as to get your thoughts on it down below, so fire away. Other than that, please take excellent care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.